and welcome to Bucs Bounty, the Pirates' only baseball podcast. Joining me today, Jordy Mercer, shortstop, Pittsburgh Pirate
Yay.
great. Great to see you. Jordy came into town for this road trip against the Cardinals, correct? Pre-game, post-game
That's
show for
right.
the
Yeah.
Cardinals series.
Yeah.
Um, it's always fun to have you in town, man. I always really enjoy it. But today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about a few subjects here. We're going to talk about Bubba Chandler. You got to talk about Bubba Chandler coming up. And if you're going to talk about Bubba Chandler, you got to talk about Paul Skenes. So we'll be talking about Paul Skenes. And also we'll meet up with the play-by-play of Altoona, Jon Mozes, who will give us the skinny on Konnor Griffin and Termarr Johnson, what they've been able to do recently. But Jordy, we're going to start talking about the flame-throwing youngster who just made his major league debut on Friday, August 22nd. The man from the South, Bubba Chandler, shines in his major league debut. He goes 4 innings out of the bullpen after Braxton Ashcraft. He gets 3 strikeouts. He gets a save, a 4-inning save in his major league debut. First person to ever do that in baseball history, get a 4-inning save. I also got 1 save in my major league career. It was a 3-inning save. We were actually just talking about it just recently because I still have the scorecard for that in my
Oh,
office
that's
in the
right.
studio.
Yeah. That's right.
That's right.
That's
Yeah,
right.
against the Orioles. But Jordy, I just wanted to kind of get your feel on Bubba Chandler. We weren't together when he pitched that first game, but we talked about it a little bit. But he has been, he's been struggling in AAA. He was for the last 2 months or so, month and a half. He really had not been playing very well. He comes up to the big leagues, and it seems like everything clicks. And it really is that way for some guys. But that first outing for Bubba Chandler was incredible. Jordy, just give me, first of all, lay of the land here on what you see when you watch Bubba Chandler pitch.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about, bullpen. We can talk about should it be in the bullpen, should it be a starter, right? My thing was to be able to come in and throw what you just mentioned, a 4-inning save. I mean, that is extremely hard to do. You know that you did 3, having another inning. What he was able to do was really cool. I think to me, I thought the fastball command was amazing. We all know that he can throw hard. We all know that he has a great fastball. Um, but the command, I think, has been a little bit of an issue for him at times, from
Right.
what I've seen in the minor leagues, and that's how he gets in trouble. But my goodness, it was on point. And to be able to locate like he's going to be able to do, or if he can, for on a consistent basis, he's going to be extremely hard to hit. I mean, we know what type of prospect he is. He's been doing things down the lower levels for a long time, and to be able to come up and get his debut like that, to me, was something that was long awaited, something that he was anticipating, something that he was kind of ready for. I feel like,
Yeah.
and to be able to come do it on that stage at home, I think made it even more important, more better for the fans, to be able to create that. We talked about this too, Steven. We talked about a type of guy that could come in and create that buzz like atmosphere, to create that new energy, to create, put fans back, not necessarily they weren't in the stands, but to bring, necessarily a city together for one specific night. That was it, man. That was like, oh, the potential now of the future of what can be, what could be. Adding all those young arms to the bullpen, or not necessarily the bullpen, but just to the starting rotation in general. Just young arms in general. We'll put it that way. I'll be more specific, because there's just so many good young arms right now, in the Pirate organization and in the big leagues.
You're so right, man. It's crazy. And I kind of want to take the Chandler debut to kind of turn into that a little bit because we'll get to this rotation as a whole going forward, but I want to talk about the emergence of the changeup from all these power righties in the Pirates pitching
Yeah.
staff recently. Bubba Chandler, just the most recent guy in the Pirates staff, pitching staff now, who is throwing a changeup to lefties and righties. Bubba Chandler. Paul Skenes has started really relying on that changeup as the splitter this year hasn't been the same as it was last year. Carmen Mlodzinski became a starter, started throwing a changeup. And even though the starter thing didn't work out, the changeup thing has definitely worked out. And we've seen him
Yeah.
using that a lot in a relief role. And then, you got to talk about Mike Burrows, who's got maybe the best changeup in baseball just based on how often he gets those swings and misses. Why do you think that is? I mean, you're a righty. How many righty changeups did you even see throughout your
Yeah.
career? It's got to be something that is very difficult for hitters to get to.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to, I mean, right on right changeups you hardly ever see, like you mentioned, but to be able to throw a changeup with a power fastball, I think is a great combination because a lot of people do a fastball cutter, fastball slider, being hard.
Right.
Um, and all that does is create a little bit of doubt in the back of your mind as a hitter, or a little bit of thinking what you want from a pitching standpoint to a hitter. And that's what you not want as a hitter. You don't want to be like, in the back of my mind, he's got a change up right here. What if he throws it and then 99 flies right by you and you're like, oh boy, So I think we're seeing that the times have changed a little bit, and we didn't see as many change ups, 5-10 years ago as we do now with power arms, because it's more of the cutter. Back when you and I first got called up, it was more like a cutter that was the next pitch. I mean, everybody had a
Everybody was
cutter. It
throwing
was
a cutter.
amazing how,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think the times have changed now. We're kind of falling back into the old school mentality a little bit, with not as much power arms as they did back in the old school days. But now everybody still has the power arms, but they're bringing that changeup back to create that little bit of doubt. And essentially, this too, it's the arm speed. It's
Right.
all you do is basically change your grip, and it's coming out the same identical way as a fastball does. It just doesn't come out near as hard. And I think that's creating a lot more swing and miss, a lot more doubt in hitters' minds. And it's just, to me as well, it's helping set up that fastball and be more relevant than just throwing up there and say, here comes 100, try to hit it, hit it, hit it. Well, now everybody can do that. So it's a lot easier to hit. Now you mix in a changeup every now and then, that makes that fastball even better.
It's so interesting because we both know that it wouldn't be in the zeitgeist of baseball if it wasn't getting whiffs, right? All those guys are
Yeah,
getting a lot of swing
that's
and
right.
miss on that changeup. That's why you're seeing it a lot. All right, let's go back to Chandler specifically. I want to talk about his move to the big leagues, the logistics of it. Okay, this guy comes up. He's been a
Mhm.
starter his entire career. He's only had 3 appearances out of the bullpen in the minor leagues. He was a starter his whole life growing up, as most of these guys were who make it to the big leagues, especially as a starter. But look, it's a different situation for him. And he talked about it afterwards, talking to Thomas Harrington, who gave him advice on making this move earlier in the
Yeah.
season, where it just kind of gives you the opportunity to forget everything that you are working on. And now the phone rings and you got to get ready to go in and you can't think about things too much. Do you think that's a benefit for Bubba Chandler? And then also, are you hoping to see him in that starter role by the end of the season?
It's difficult to talk about, isn't it? It's kind of strange because you want him, being a top prospect in baseball, started basically his whole career. You want him to come up and be in the rotation. To me, I feel like that's what
Yeah.
a lot of people do want. On the flip side of that is, and you and I have talked about this a couple of times, is whenever you have a playoff team, or whenever you're in the mix in late September, playing these meaningful games, and you have a solidified rotation, kind of like the Pirates do right now. I'm not saying that you can't mix and match, but you have legitimate guys in the rotation. And to be able to come in and insert a guy like Bubba Chandler in that long relief, even maybe an inning in the back of the bullpen too, possibly, you never know. And to be able to set that up, I guess I should say, to maybe have that down the road, because I really do think this team is close. I don't think this team is that far away. I really don't. Because the pitching is there, and we saw that pitching wins. Pitching wins in postseason. It wins every year, and so I think having that opportunity for him to first get called up, second of all, create a little bit different routine that he's normally doing. I think that's going to help him in the long run. And third of all, I don't know if they've figured out quite the Pirates organization's figured out quite what they want to do with the rotation yet. So let's get this guy up. Let's get him some innings under his belt. Let's get him under the lights in front of these fans. Let's get him used to the routine of getting on the road and travel. I think it's going to benefit him more in the long run than it is anything else, just because he can settle in now. And if he does get pushed to that rotation role, which I would like to see him there eventually, I think it's going to help his routine out and help him, solidify being here on an everyday basis better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting because you got three guys in the rotation right now coming off of injuries from last year. Oviedo, who just
Yeah.
got here, he's obviously going to be very limited in terms of innings. You got Braxton Ashcraft, who's going to be limited in innings. He
That's
just
right.
became a starter after being a reliever in the big leagues for a while. And then you got Mike Burrows, who's coming off of an injury that he came back from last year. Once again, you're trying to build all these guys up to have them ready for next year. So it makes sense that there's going to be situations where you're going to be able to really plan out when Bubba Chandler is going to be going into the game and
That's
still
right.
give him enough time to get those 4 or 5 innings. I will say, though, as I said before, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Pirates go to a 6-man rotation by the end of the season. Give all these
Yep.
guys a little bit of extra breaks, but still get Bubba Chandler in that starting rotation. Next year is going to be interesting because I mean you have 6 right now, legitimate, ready starting
That's right.
pitchers, and it's a good problem to have. A lot of youth, of course, but a lot of really good arms.
I
And
mean,
so,
we got Jared
yeah,
Jones coming eventually too. So,
true.
I mean, that could be, you know what I mean? I mean, that's another arm. So,
You're absolutely right. Does it change anything that, when you look at this team and you see the pitching staff? We also see the offense, which unfortunately is last in Major League Baseball in a lot of categories this year. Just
yeah.
hasn't been able to really get off the ground. But here in August, they have. The offense has been much, much better in the month of August. Brian Reynolds is performing really well. Jared Triolo's on fire. We've
That's
seen a
right.
lot more success at the plate. Also, most home runs in any month this season already here in August. It is the 26th when we're doing this. You still got a few games left here at the end of August. But does this kind of change your expectations for next year? You already talked about how you think they're close. Does it at all change the way that you see this team when you throw in Bubba Chandler and add his arm to an already strong pitching staff?
I mean, I just think it's going to be better. I think our staff is going to be better. I think the plethora of options I think are better because now they got a little bit more experience under their belt. You know this as well as anybody is the experience goes a long ways in the big leagues. I mean, guys are
It does.
adapting nonstop. That's why they're so good. That's why they're so good. That's why they stay here for a long period of time is because they can make adjustments on the fly relatively quickly. So as a younger player, you're going to have to do the same. I mean, when you face a guy over and over and over, he's going to eventually figure you out where you have to change something up where you flip the script a little bit to get him out. So my thing is these guys have more experience under their belt. They're getting that experience now. They are going to progress. They are going to get better. It's a matter of, like you mentioned, can we get enough bats? Can we get enough offense generated going forward to score enough runs to win? Because I don't necessarily think you have to score a bunch. In those playoff teams that I played on, we didn't score a ton of runs, but we knew that
Right.
if we just got the lead by the fifth, sixth inning, the game was over. And that's kind of what where we played really good defense too as well. So I think there's a lot of factors in. Hey, let's just go get these big bats and hit 40 homers and score 10 runs and let's, win games like that. Well, that's not going to happen. That's not how it works. So if they can figure out how score average 4 to 5 runs on a daily basis, I mean, you're going to win a tremendous amount of games. And like I mentioned earlier, how close we are, the amount of 1-run games that we play this year is just incredible. We lead baseball in that. So if you can flip the script a little bit and just reverse kind of those, have a positive record in those 1-run games, I mean, that's a big jump in discrepancy in record. So I just think that's why I think we're so close. I think we're really close because the pitching staff is there. We have the arms up that are getting the experience now, and it's just a matter of putting it all together. And I think the time's coming relatively sooner than later.
I agree. Right now, August 26th, once again, is when we're recording this podcast. Pirates 23-28 in one-run games, 51 one-run games, losing by 5 games.
It's amazing.
If you can turn that around to 32 and whatever the number is, 27, now all of a sudden that's a huge swing, right? So there's a lot to be there if the Pirates are able to find that just little bit of extra offense that puts them over the edge. All right, when we come back here on Bucs Bounty, we're going to be talking to Jon Mozes, the play-by-play announcer for the Altoona Curve, about Konnor Griffin, about Termarr Johnson, lots of other stuff when we come back here on Bucs Bounty.
Prep work inside, that's your most important thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, can you explain a little bit of why?
Prep work is the most important thing. The first thing I do when I get in there, I pick up a thick grip handle, I put the tee very high, and I hit off it. If I can't do that, how do I expect to hit a ball that's dancing and moving at 90 plus miles an hour?
That thing called a tee?
If you can't hit that ball to the back of the net consistently, what makes you think you can control your barrel out here when someone's throwing it? That's the one thing I do every day consistently.
So that's the check mark.
That's it. I check that off. Because then I slowly push that guy back. I slowly push him back.
Distance and time.
Side flip. Then push him back a little further, then I push him back a little further, then I'm like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about in batting practice?
Barrel control. Once you have control of that, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Say I want to work to the opposite side of the field. If I have the control of the barrel, I can do that. Once I start feeling good, then when I decide it's time to launch a little bit, open up the body, then I'll do that towards the end.
Catch the next Bucs BP show presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Pittsburgh.
Joining us here to talk about the Altoona Curve and a lot going on down in Toontown recently is play-by-play / broadcast media relations director. I mean, you do everything down there. It's pretty amazing to read through your job title. There's more job titles than I even do for work every day. But joined the Curve in 2021, been the voice of the Curve since then. Before that, worked for the Trenton Thunder in the same league for 6 years, starting in 2015. Also the voice of Princeton women's basketball. Jon, thank you for joining us. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. Enjoying a nice cup of coffee at Little Lamps here in Harrisburg. We're ready for a big week of Curve baseball, man.
This is a big week. This is the week that the Curve are going to try to take over first place from Harrisburg. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you've sort of held a 1 to 2.5 game lead for the last 2 weeks here, and Harrisburg, they've gotten hot. You know, they've got a couple guys get healthy. They got a couple trade acquisitions that just showed up. So they've been playing pretty well. And, you know, Curve with a 1-game lead going into this week. So, you know, you go 4-2, 5-1, and you get a chance to, you know, put those playoff tickets on sale by Friday or Saturday.
Jordy, I know you wanted to ask Jon about Konnor Griffin. Obviously, it's his first week at Altoona. It's been struggling a little bit. First of all, Jordy, we haven't really talked about Konnor Griffin all that much, a shortstop with all of the athletic talent in the world. Jordy, what have you seen so far when you've watched Konnor Griffin? And then we can hear what Jon has seen so far in Altoona.
Well, to me, I like what the makeup is for him. You know, I think being that young of age, having, you know, that much, I guess, I don't even handles pressure or knows what pressure is yet. Maybe. I don't know. He's 19, but to be able to hold that right and to be able to have that on his shoulders, knowing that he is the best baseball player, best prospect baseball player in all of baseball. So, to me, Jon, my question to you is, like, you got to know him now a little bit. Give us an insight of what type of person he is. I know there's people in Bradenton that know him, people in the organization know him, but the average fan, like, being able to talk to the kid, realizing he's only 19, give me some tidbits about his makeup and who the person he is off the field, not necessarily on the field.
Really, really respectful young man. I was sort of blown away listening to his initial media availabilities with us, just how polished he is, sort of talking about things that he's working on. I'm really sort of impressed with how he shows maturity beyond his years. As you guys know, I've been doing this a little while, AA players don't always aren't always the most polished media types when they first get to a place. Especially coming up through the lower levels of the minors, you guys can probably attest to this, that like you don't do a whole lot of media when you're in Bradenton, when you're just hanging around an A-ball. But by the time you get to AA, AAA, the major leagues, things are a little bit more like the big leagues, where there's media in the clubhouse, pregame, postgame. And he handles all that really easily. It's a little bit like Paul Skenes was when he was here, where he just says, yep, no problem. I've got it. Sounds great. I'm happy to talk to anybody. So I think that's just sort of the biggest thing, is just how respectful and polished he is in some areas where you'd understand if he wasn't.
Yeah, it's interesting. So last year when he got drafted, he came to Pittsburgh, and he came onto the set and did the pregame show for a little while. And so we got to talk to him. And one of the things that really took me back in a positive way was how confident Konnor Griffin is in his ability. There's not many people who, while they're still in the minor leagues, will make the claim that their ultimate goal is to make the Hall of Fame, because that puts you all of a sudden in this category of like, you think very, very highly of yourself if that is your goal. But for Konnor Griffin, one, obviously he's backed it up, but two, it comes from a place, a good place, a confident but not cocky kind of place. Can you tell us about that from what you've seen, especially so far in Altoona, where he's not obviously been at the top of his game, only hitting 286 with no extra base hits in that first week?
Yeah, I mean, confidence comes with ability, right? I think you guys could probably both think about this from your days, where it's like, now, I feel confident once I see myself do it. So, I'm sure Konnor was a confident guy growing up in the first place, but once you experience success, then you feel the confidence that it can repeat and that it can continue. So, look, even when in his second game, he struck out 3 out of 4 at bats, chasing sliders down and away, he made the adjustment the very next day. Like, that shows the kind of, just the kind of ability to make quick adjustments. That little thing to me, I think, is something that really stuck out. Alex Presley was here doing the games on Sportsnet the last couple of days, and he was looking at that too, just being like, oh my God, he's got such great plate coverage, and now he's understanding what pitchers want to do to him day to day. That is a real key in development. How quickly can you make an adjustment between at bats, between games, between weeks of play? And it feels like he's got a pretty good feel for that already.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I remember back when, and getting called up to Altoona, Steven, you can attest to this too, probably. That, to me, that was the chance to really sit back and be like, okay, we're getting close now. Like, we're 2 steps away, essentially. But the one thing I remember most about, getting called up to just AA baseball in general is the jump in, how good guys were, more polished, more just overall prospect-ishy. Is that even a word? Prospect-ishy, maybe? I don't know. But
it is.
You know what I mean, though, right? So I don't know, and I'm curious to get John's thought of this. Does he realize, like, now that I am in AA, I am essentially a call away, or maybe even 2 calls away, but this is starting to get like real for him, and starting to get, this is where kind of the competition level I need to be, because it was a big jump from, my opinion, a big jump for me coming from that A ball to that AA, AAA, obviously the big leagues. But that's when I knew, like, this is getting real. These guys are good, and I got to step my game up a little bit.
I think he has a feel for that. First day in the ballpark, he's got a gaggle of 7 or 8 media members, 3 different cameras waiting to talk to him. There's an actual response. Like, you guys have played so much baseball in your life, right? Like, sometimes guys get announced to the plate and it's just like, oh, yay, guy on my team. But the first time he got introduced, like, it felt different, right? Like, you could hear a real reaction from the crowd. I was telling my broadcast partner about this. It felt a little bit like a major league rehab, where the fans, who generally, don't know our players very closely until they play for the team for weeks or months, fans knew who he was as soon as you walked into the ballpark. So, yeah, I think he's got some idea that it's different here, both in terms of baseball and in terms of how close he is. And, I think specifically, and this is a pretty Pirate thing, we're 2 hours away from Pittsburgh. And guys on off days will come out and hang out at PNC Park or spend some time in the city. So they realize how close they are when they get here. When you can just hop in the car 2 hours later and be at PNC Park, then it starts to, I think, hit home for them that could be their home ballpark pretty soon.
That's a good
Hey,
point.
real quick, Steven,
this
real
is Jon
quick.
Mozes. Yeah. What do you got?
I was just thinking back when, my first year in Altoona, Steven Strasburg's debut was in Altoona. And I don't know if you guys remember that, but ESPN would cut out and they would show live innings, and they would only show the bottom half of the inning when he was pitching. They wouldn't show the top half of the inning when we were hitting. So it was wild. Only when he pitched, right? And I just remember that atmosphere, kind of what Jon was speaking about. It was just different, right? It was more like a rehab assignment, this is an actual big leaguer, but it was his first appearance basically on the mound, and ESPN cut live to it every time he went on the mound, which was absolutely bonkers and wild, according to us, because we were young and we didn't really know what was going on. But so I can relate a little bit to that, how it's just when prospects like that get called up or in that situation, it's a different feel, it's a different vibe, and I can relate to that for sure.
Yeah, that's wild. That is definitely a different level of experience than most guys have in AA. Jon Mozes, the play-by-play guy for Altoona, joining us. Jon, I will say one last thing about Konnor Griffin. This is not his worst 6-game stretch to start a level this season. At the beginning of the year in Low A Bradenton, he only hit 190 over his first week, and he ended up doing just fine the rest of the time in Low A, moving up to High A, and now being in AA for a week. This guy is moving up the system incredibly quickly. I'm going to use that to transition to a guy who had also moved up the system very, very quickly, but has stalled a little bit in Altoona. But he's on a hot streak recently. And of course, I'm talking about second baseman Termarr Johnson. Termarr Johnson, left-handed hitter, 21 years old, 4th overall pick in 2022. He was the 16th overall best prospect in Major League Baseball, according to MLB Pipeline, in 2023. The most recent update, he's not even on that top 100. Unfortunately, he's dropped off because he kind of slowed down a little bit offensively. But recently, Jon, he has been on a tear in the second half of the season at 33 games. He's hitting .301 with a 772 OPS. But how about his last 10 games where he's hitting .450 with an OPS over 1? What have you seen from Termarr Johnson recently that maybe is different from that first half?
There's a new inspired confidence the last couple weeks. I think you go through the day-to-day of doing this, and it's hard to maintain your energy level every day. I mean, Jordy, you can talk about this as a position player, that sometimes it can be hard to bring great energy to work every day. And I got to say, I've just loved the way he's approached things at the plate the last couple weeks here. He's spraying line drives all over the ballpark. And, for me, a guy at his size, I love to see that, right? It is hard to say at 5'8", and he's a well-built guy, no doubt, but it's hard to be a power hitter when you're not that big. You're playing in a ballpark that does not really reward left-handed power hitting very well at this level. So I think that he has made a pretty significant adjustment in terms of approach, where he's more willing to take walks, spray line drives all over the place. And now pitchers have to attack him differently from where they were attacking in the first 2-3 months of the season, because he's less willing to chase. He's been much more disciplined with breaking stuff the last couple weeks. And frankly, the guys around him, I think, are a little bit better in the batting order too. I think that has helped too, that, pitchers could work around him or force him to expand strike zones, and then they wouldn't, have somebody behind them that could really make them pay. But, Nick Samilla's played a lot better of late. Omar Alfonso and Esmerlyn Valdez arriving from High A have really lengthened the lineup. And, now pitchers, I think, realize I can't just try to fish and get Termarr out because somebody else behind him is going to hurt me. So I think that's been helpful too.
Yeah, I mean, I think you brought up a good point. Maybe having these guys around and now having Konnor Griffin, right next to him too as well. He doesn't have to be the guy, and I wonder if taking a little bit of pressure off him, not being so much necessarily the face of or a top prospect in the Pirates organization, so called anymore. According to MLB, but maybe that relieve a little bit of pressure. Now he can just absolutely go play and not worry about it, and you might see a different Termarr Johnson, from in my opinion, maybe just because he doesn't necessarily have to be the guy to, take that weight off his shoulders and carry a team along. Now he's got guys, surrounding him in that lineup, and especially Konnor Griffin, where he's going to take a lot of the media to his side.
Yeah, there's an energy element to all of this, right? Where, we get a couple guys from high A that have just sort of raised the energy level of the clubhouse. The AA roster changes over the course of a whole season. And, the guys that have arrived the last couple of weeks, Deuce Gorson, Esmerlyn Valdez, Omar Alfonso, Mike Walsh coming out of the bullpen. Like, he's a name you might not know, but he's the kind of guy that, keeps a clubhouse loose. So, you need some of those sort of energy raisers in your clubhouse. And, now that we're here at the end of August, right, you're fighting through those August doldrums, and now you've got a playoff hunt in front of you also. So I think that's why the team's just played a lot better.
So you brought up Esmerlyn Valdez. I don't want to go into him too much, but he obviously hit a ton of home runs in high A, 20 home runs this season. So far, only 2 home runs in 35 games. But the power is there. He's a true hitter. What have you seen from him in those 35 games that you've seen him play?
It's really in there. I was talking to one of our hitting coaches about this because guys, when they come from Greensboro and that hitting environment there, sometimes try to do too much when they get to Altoona, because the ballparks are so different, right? Like, Altoona is a pitcher's park. Greensboro is about as hitter-friendly environment as you have in the entire minor leagues. Casey Harms put it pretty succulent to me, where he was just like, look, line drives play everywhere. Sometimes guys get here, they think they have to do more. So part of the process from coaches is just reminding them, look, you're here for a reason. You're here because you do this well. Don't try to change who you are, just because the ballpark is different. Let's get some time under our belts. And then, if we need to make adjustments off of that, we'll do it. And I think Esmerlyn's been pretty good in that area, where it took him probably a solid 2-3 weeks to get used to how pitchers are able to throw breaking stuff for strikes more often. The elite fastballs are here, 95 plus, that with location that may not be as consistent at Greensboro or at high A in general. It's really in there. His first home run was a 113 mile an hour line drive to right center field. For a right-handed batter in Altoona, that is insane, right? Like, homering over that sign in right center is really hard to do for a righty batter. So it's in there, and he gives you a good at bat, right? Like, he consistently takes pitches, tries to stay to what he wants to do, and I think that's sort of the key for him is staying sort of true to that approach and not trying to expand off of it.
Well, John, we really appreciate it, man. I hope you get to enjoy some O'Neill Cruz while he's down there rehabbing. You get 2 athletic freaks at the same time. That's pretty exciting. But Jon Mozes, play-by-play for Altoona, been there since 2021. Thank you so much for giving us the skinny on everything going down in Toontown. We really appreciate it, man. And good luck to the team going into Harrisburg. Hopefully you win a lot of games and avoid floods in those bunker clubhouses, all right?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't rain a lot, we should be all right. Good to see you, fellas.
Sounds good.
No one destroys a baseball like O'Neill Cruz.
That is the hardest hit ball in known Major League history.
Pitchers should consider themselves warned.
And it is gone! There's a Cruz missile!
Log in with your cable provider and stream the Pirates all season long on SNP 360.
Hey, Hey, that conversation with Moses was really cool. You gotta appreciate the passion in minor league baseball.
Yeah.
Double A, like he said, that's that level where you start to, like you said, you're so close. You can feel it.
So close.
My
That's
first start
right.
in Double A, I gave up 5 runs on 10 hits. They were all singles. They were all ground balls. I was like, this is horrible. I hate this play. um, I just want to quickly touch on one more thing that you mentioned about Konnor Griffin. You talked about how his mentality getting to Double A seems like
Yeah.
it's an extra level higher than what you would expect. Do you think that's going to help him progress, or do you think that's something he's going to have to continue to learn as he moves up the levels?
I mean, to me, I think he's going to figure it out. I think that's the way that was, like I mentioned, that was just the hardest part for me. What I remember is the playing field got so much better. The consistency
Yeah.
wise got so much better. So I think he'll learn that. And he's such a good player. He'll figure it out. But I think that's why he's struggling right now just a little bit. He's trying to, because every time you go to a different level, it's a new, it's something that you're trying to figure out. It's something new that you haven't seen yet. And so to me, when he gets called up to Double A, there's more prospects, there's more live arms, there's more, the ball gets hit a little bit harder, there's faster play. Just in general, the ball moves quicker, the game moves quicker, the pace of play moves quicker. And so I think it's just an adjustment period for him, really, in a sense. It's not really necessarily that he's going to have to, sit down and figure out. I think the more games he plays, the more adjusted he's going to get, and then his talent's just going to take over, and he's going to be able to go play. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is it was just a little bit of adjustment period. That's why he's probably trying to, or he's having a low moment right now in his play. But it's a matter of time, Steven. This guy's so good, man. And we talked with Jon about that too. Is how he's got such a good head on his shoulders that I don't think the highs get too high. I don't necessarily think the lows get too low either. And that's what it's all about in baseball. I mean, if you can stay consistent and that level platform of playing, I mean, he's got it all under control. And that's what's so fun to see him play and see him progress.
Yeah, think about that. Everybody in Altoona right now who goes to watch Curve games is watching the very possibly middle infield of the future playing together right now in Toontown. Konnor Griffin is short, Termarr Johnson at second base. That's what the Pirates are hoping is going to be what we see for a long
Yeah.
time in the future. And that's really exciting that those guys are both getting so close and both playing very, very good baseball. All right. Paul
Well,
Skenes.
wait.
There's this guy.
And you also get a chance
whoa.
to wait. You also get a chance to see the best player in baseball, prospect wise. So how cool is that too? I mean, come on,
Yeah,
that's really neat to have.
you're absolutely right. You're right. You're right. Let's speak of the
So
best player in baseball. Well, the best pitcher in baseball. We'll say that. I say that with absolutely zero shame. Paul Skenes, he's reached 50 games now, and he has the second lowest career ERA through 50 games out of anybody ever who's pitched in Major League Baseball. And that is second placed only Vida Blue, who had a 2.01 ERA through 50 starts. Skenes has a 2.02. What a loser, right? Unbelievable. Okay, so look, there's a lot of things we can talk about with Paul Skenes. But I want to start with, we talked about the fact that the changeup is more prevalent for him this year. Last year, the splinker is what we called it last year. This year, because he basically split that pitch into a sinker and a changeup, right? That's what we're seeing
right,
more so of
right.
that. Or sorry, my bad, sinker and an actual splitter, and then he's still throwing his changeup. But that splitter has not been as effective for
I
him
know what
this
you mean.
year, and so he's
Yeah.
been really relying on the changeup. That's a big move for a guy to go into his second year, and I think that's how he's avoided his quote unquote sophomore slump. He has changed the way that he had to, even though he was
That's exactly
already
right.
one of the best. The mentality, right? The knowledge to know that sometimes he is going to have to change. What do you think that means for like what Paul Skenes can do in the future?
Do we know? I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows, to be honest with you, because I
That's a good
feel
point.
like, yeah, you're right. I mean, I feel like he's making pitches up as we go, and that's what makes him so good. And we've talked about this over and over and over. Every time you see him, I don't know. There may be a couple starts that he kind of did the same thing from last previous start, but it seems like to me the times that I've watched him and the times I've covered him, which was quite a few that I've got a chance this year, is he's been kind of different in the type of pitcher he is when every time he goes out and pitches. By meaning that he throws a different pitch more often than he would the previous outing, or he does something different, pitchability wise, during that start than he did the previous start. So to me, adding pitches and kind of not necessarily reinventing himself, but just adding more to his arsenal that guys can't hit already, but now he's adding more pitches to it to keep them on their toes and basically on their heels of not knowing what this guy's going to do. It just makes him even that much better. And we talk about how it takes experience in this game to be really good, right? It talks about this. We talk about all the time how older guys, that's why you want older guys around, is because they've been through the ropes. Dude, this guy is like a 10-year vet already. And it is like, it's just amazing. You know what I mean? The amount of innings that he has that are not even upper echelon type, for guys that have been around for a long time. But the way he throws, the way he goes about himself, the way he pitches, it's like he's been in this league for a long time and knows exactly what he's doing. And then on the flip side of that, maybe he don't. Maybe he's just coming up with new things that he's just trying to let's go to the bullpen and let's try a different grip, and the splinter comes involved. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is, it's just this guy's amazing to watch, and amazing to see how he constantly changes the way he throws to get better and better and better. And that's what's so cool about this whole thing.
So our producer Nick Belsky, who always does a wonderful job putting these shows together for us, thank you, Nick. He's smiling abashedly right now. Don't pretend that you don't like the shout outs.
It's great.
He put it together a list of some of Paul Skenes' greatest starts. And he basically asked us to say, what has been our favorite Skenes performance? I'm going to give you listeners these games that he has listed for us, because it's easy to remember how many amazing games Paul Skenes has already had in his 50 career starts. So obviously you got his debut against Chicago. That first inning was enthralling. I was at that game. It was absolutely incredible. But it didn't end up going all that well, because the Pirates ended up losing that game after he left. There was a rain delay. It was a crazy game.
Right.
But then he played against Chicago his very next start, the same team. And the quote in between those starts, when asked, how are you going to go about adjusting? And his response was, well, they're going to have to adjust to me, and good luck. And it was such a confident, like kind of cocky, but like in a good way, hey, this is my call out to the big leagues. I know that I am better than what I showed in that first game. Goes out against Chicago, 6 innings, 11 strikeouts, no hits. By the way, he's had 2 of those games where he's gone 6 innings, shutout, had 11 strikeouts and no hits in his career, which is insane. We can go with that. The start in Milwaukee, where he goes that other game, he goes 7 innings, no hits, 11 strikeouts. His first loss against St. Louis, where he went 8 1/3 and he gave up 2 runs in the 9th. That one hurt. The first complete game against Philadelphia, which also hurts because he got the loss in that game. And he said, I'm going to put an asterisk next to that one because it was only 8 innings. He didn't win it. He doesn't even want it. That shows you exactly who he is. And then, of course, the game against the Dodgers in LA this year on April 25th, where he went 6 1/3, struck out 9, didn't give up any runs, didn't walk anybody, against what was, especially at the time, the best offense in baseball. Jordy, I'm going to give my opinion first here. To me, there's really no question, to be honest with you. That second career start against the Cubs, where he just came out, he struck out the first 7 guys he faced in that game. He struck out the first 7 guys he faced, and then he goes and gets 11 strikeouts through 6 hitless innings. It was just such a, I'm here, this is who I am, I'm Paul Skenes, good luck. And he's just continued doing that every single start the rest of his career so far. Jordy, is that your pick too, or do you got something else for me?
I got something else. Okay, so I was here when I did the Milwaukee game. And what people don't understand was you could feel Now, they were on the road, I get it, but you could feel the tension on what was going to happen. Is he going to stay in? Is he not going to stay in? He's reaching that 100 pitch threshold or whatever it is, right? So to me, that was the start of, okay, we got to be careful with this guy because this guy is going to be our guy for a long time. And so that was when I realized, like, okay, is there a chance he could throw a no-hitter? Of course there is. I mean, I think that's a question that every time he goes out, right? But on the other side of that is we have to be so careful with this guy. We don't want to make a mistake and end up hurting him, whatever it is, okay? And to me, you could just feel the tension through the TV, through the announcers, through Major League. The buzz on social media was going wild at that time too. I just was scrolling through going, I mean, everybody's now glued to the TV watching what's going to happen next. What are the Pirates going to do? What is he going to do? You know what? And I feel like that was the moment for me that I realized, like, we have an absolute superstar on our hands that people are glued to the TV every single night when he pitches. And that, I don't know, all these are great. And what you said was tremendous too, because of the backstory and whatnot. But the feeling that I had when I watched that game and during that game was like, I mean, we weren't talking about it. We weren't doing much besides just watching, and like everybody was like, what's going to happen next? Okay. What if that's a bullpen? Is anybody in the bullpen? You know, like, and it was so cool to be able to experience that.
Yeah, dude, I totally agree. It's amazing. It really does feel different. Like you feel like you have to watch him pitch, because that leads into my next question.
Yeah.
Is this GOAT trail status, right? Because we're
Yeah.
talking about really early in a career, obviously. 50 games is just not that many in terms of a Hall of Fame career, but you're looking at the stats he puts up so far, and it stacks up against anybody in the history of baseball. Now the question becomes, how long can he do this for, right? If you stretch this out for an 18-year career, yeah, this guy might be the best of all time. The problem is he's got to get there, and that health, the ability to stay on the field, stay in the rotation year in, year out, start in, start out, is very difficult to do. I can tell you from personal experience, my arm shredded apart. It's not an easy thing to do. But this guy, he is on a different level in terms of his ability, but also in his prepare ability. He does such a great job of getting himself ready, getting his body ready, keeping his body good in between starts. He works harder than almost anybody in his preparation between games. And I think all that speaks to his ability to do that. It's a question of stretching it out. But Jordy, is it too early for us to get into the GOAT potential talks, or are we there already?
Man, that's such a tough question. It really is, because we see the potential. We see what could be. We see him breaking records that nobody's broken, and he's in an elite company that nobody's been in a long time.
Right.
But I think the way the game is, the way we see injuries now these days, that's always, to me, that's always in the back of your mind. Is that the number one question that when most baseball people talk about is, well, is this guy going to stay healthy? That's the biggest thing, because now we just see so many injuries nowadays because guys throw harder. There's more taxing on their arms, but then you rebuttal of he takes care of himself. He does his workout. His routine is more better than anybody I've ever seen on the being a starter.
Yeah.
So he's built like a Mack truck. I mean, all that stuff combined. Can he hold up? It's all there. Yeah, he looks like he can, right? And so if he does, I don't think there's any question that he's going to go down as one of the greatest pitchers of all time if he stays healthy. I think that's pretty much a given, in my opinion. It's a matter of fact that, can he continue at this rate, what he's doing, for an extended period of time? I want him to be. I think baseball wants him to. I think everybody wants him to. It's kind of a wait and see. It's wait and see hope. But my goodness, man, it's to be able to have this in not only in the Pirates organization, but technically in our backyard, to be able to watch him do what he does. on a every 4-day, 5-day basis. It's just so cool to see. And to be able to have that, like I said, at PNC Park in the greatest place to play, it's truly something special. And so why, I'm going to rebuttal that question to you, Stephen. Why do we have to label him as to be one of the greatest of all time? Why can't we just sit back and watch and enjoy, right?
Because I am incapable of doing that. My mind works a million miles an hour, even when it's not supposed to. I've been around Michael McHenry too much. All right, give me a break. Okay, I got one more question for you before we let you go, let the fans go. Okay, this is something I threw at Alex Presley when he was on the pregame show, and now I'm going to
Okay.
do it to you. Let everybody know that Jordy has not been aware that I was going to ask this question at all, and this is his real
No
answer.
idea.
You ready for this? If
I
you
am.
were going to go taking it bad against Paul Skenes, what would your approach be at the plate?
Okay, so to me, I think I am going to swing early in the count and really early in the count. So I think I'm going to swing first, second, and maybe even third pitch, but I'm going to try to get my swing off in the first or second pitch. And here's the reason why. Because I think he's going to get ahead of me with this fastball on the outside corner of the plate. So when you face Verlanders and the Scherzers and the guys like that are been around for a long time that are Hall of Famers, right? I think that you have to completely sell out to what you're going to do in that at bat. And so I am going up there against Paul Skenes, and I am selling out on him throwing a heater first pitch out over on the outside corner of the plate, and I am going to try to shoot that thing to right field.
And the best part about it is when you foul that one straight back and you just, the thought becomes, well, I'm out. So nice.
Yep. And then, it's gone after that. So you don't have a backup plan either. That's the thing. That's the thing for people don't realize is you don't have a backup plan when you face guys like that. You don't. You have one plan and one pen only. And if it doesn't work, you're going to go right back to the dugout.
Well, we've seen lots and lots of guys do that already
Yes.
against Paul Skenes in his first 50 games, and we cannot wait to see how the rest of his career games are going to go. Jordy, thank you for joining us today on Bucs Bounty. It was so much fun. Thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, follow, watch us on YouTube, listen to us anywhere you get your podcasts. And also, we'll be playing on Sportsnet Pittsburgh. If you want to turn the old channel on every now and then, that works as well. Jordy, we got to get ready for some more Cardinals Pirates baseball later here today. But thank you so much for joining us. And thank you everybody else as well. And we will see you later next week here on Bucs Bounty.